Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Are the Vancouver Whitecaps the best Canadian side in MLS? Are they better than Montreal? Are they better than Toronto? If so, how are they doing it? Do they need more pieces? Are they an MLS contender? Don't worry, here are the interviews. We've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down the Vancouver Whitecaps. So as we approach the summer months of the MLS season, you look at Montreal not in a playoff spot. You look at TFC not in a playoff spot. The only Canadian team in a playoff spot is the Vancouver Whitecaps. What makes this such more a big achievement for them is that they don't have a big name like those two other teams. Perhaps TFC have been busy with the CONCACAF Champions League. Perhaps Montreal need a few games together. But this Vancouver Whitecaps side haven't really hit full stride either. They concede goals. They struggle scoring goals. We look at the board, we got them in the blue, 4-4-2. We saw them in an entertaining draw against Houston that they probably should have won. We saw them lose to 10-man Minnesota, a game that they probably should have won. But that game last weekend, we kind of saw what Vancouver could be. 4-4-2, Blondell and Kei Kamara up front. Kamara was unavailable due to injury, but throughout the season, we've seen Kamara play by himself up front. That hasn't really worked out. What happens with Kamara when he plays up front by himself and they add another midfielder in is that Vancouver struggle to sustain possession, so they often drop a bit deeper. They're often in either a bank of 5 or a bank of 4 in the midfield, and the defense is a bit more narrow, obviously. But then Kamara is isolated up front. If they play a team that can retain possession, he's isolated up front. He has to hold the ball up, which he's good at, and then he has to encourage runners forward. Yes, it is a great feat that could work, but with Vancouver being unable to sustain the ball for long periods of the game, they will often see him be more isolated, and they will drop deeper and deeper. That didn't work out. With Kamara out, we saw Blondell go up front. He's a bit of a different threat. Likes to drift into the channels, could drop deep, can encourage runners forward. You look at the game where they lost to SKC, they should have obviously had a goal or two in the first half. It's Blondell dropping deeper, runners sliding in behind him. He's able to find that final pass. They lost that game, but it just goes to show what he could offer. Blondell also heavily right-footed. Look at the Minnesota game, ball played into the channels, cuts in on the marker, fires a shot on goal, should score. Shuttleworth made a great save, but that's what Blondell offers you. With Kamara and Blondell up front, you kind of get a bit of both, a proper balance up front, and it ensures that they don't really need, for now, the short term, creativity in that midfield because they can give you a different kind of threat. We saw them eventually create chances against Houston in their second game against them. They won the game at Houston on the road where they did use Kamara as that lone striker. Here, they had Blondell and Kamara up front. What you get from them is you can have Kamara be the target man, be the focal point. He hasn't had his goal-scoring boots on this season. He struggled in front of goal, but he gives you a presence. It allows Blondell to go into the channels, drop off, and it just gives them something different. They need that because in midfield, at the moment we look at them, they don't have the options. They have Gazal and Felipe Martins in there. Yes, they can win the ball. Yes, they protect the back line very well. We see the wide players drop in, and that's great. But when it comes to getting service for these guys, now you can get Blondell driving into the channels to stretch the defense. Now you can have Kamara kind of post up deep into the box and hold up the ball. You can have him drop off and have Blondell push out. But it just looks like the Whitecap don't have their best 11 at the moment. You would assume that perhaps Russell Teibert could drop into that space. We saw when Teibert played with Blondell this season, he was able to play long balls over the top that he could run onto. In midfield, you have to look at their options. They have Davies, who's he's a youngster. He could run at you. He kind of lacks that final product. Not much of a wide player that delivers crosses into the box, but he has a great combination with Davies, where if he drops central, you have Davies pushing forward from left back. He could deliver crosses into the box. They need that from them. Davies is also great. We saw this against Minnesota, but perhaps just at that time they were too narrow and they needed width, but he could receive the ball between the lines. He could find those pockets of spaces. He could turn and he could run at goal. That's what you want from Alphonso Davies. Lots of young talent, raw could become a great MLS player. Time will tell. On the other flank, Ibini Asai hasn't really worked out. You have to look at Reyna. We saw Reyna up front with Blondell on a few occasions. He likes to drift into the wide spaces. He likes to cut in. He has a shot. Mosqueda hasn't worked in that position. Jordan Much is hurt. Jordan Much, when he comes back, could also provide that driving force from midfield, and he could run forward and get into the action as well. But when you look at the Whitecaps right now, when you look at them playing this 4-4-2, it does look like a great option for them because it gives the strikers that have been starved of service a partner, someone that could provide space for them, someone who could fill those gaps with an option. Obviously gives them more space to create and to score goals. They need more from Davies, obviously, but that's a bit too much to ask. They also have Brek Shea, who this season has provided a great threat on the counterattack, breaking deep, and he's offered a great threat at the far post. Probably should have scored against Minnesota, probably should have scored against Houston. Just getting to the far post, nodding efforts on goal, volleying efforts on goal, but he needs to do better with his finishing. But Vancouver, when you look at it from an offensive standpoint, they have some pieces. Perhaps they need a big designated player sign. They need a star player to take them over the hump. Perhaps they need a number 10, someone who could create chances from the final third, because when you look at the moment, they kind of lack that. They don't get the crosses in from the wide areas. They have attacking players that like to be inverted, and then they rely on the fullbacks to get forward. And although they have the protection in midfield, Kamara needs to get his shooting boots on. Blondell has to get going as well if they're going to rely on that avenue. But just in midfield, they don't have anyone that can create deep. So when teams bog in like this, they're unable to really find those lines, find players in these positions. If Davies moves in, if they're playing up front and he moves there, it's hard for him to get the ball there. A lot of his threats are on the counterattack or in transition. But Vancouver look to be in the right place, and now it's gut check time for them. Do they look for a player that can take them over the hump? Do they settle for what they have and look to build from that? And that could land them a playoff spot, but will that make them an MLS contender? Only time will tell, and we'll have to follow them on this path, and the interviews is a place to do that. But let me know what you guys think. Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.